The land of the Bible has secrets hiding in plain sight. If you're a pastor, small group leader, or teaching the Bible in any capacity, I want to show you how using some of our visual resources will help you become a more effective communicator of great biblical truth. In this coaching session, I'm going to show you how to use some footage from the Kidron Valley to enhance your teaching of several familiar passages in the Bible, including the night when Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane. If you see Jerusalem today, you'll see a massive urban city of some 1 million people. In Bible times, the city was far smaller, both in population and in size and in shape. The city has changed its shape several times because of war, reconstruction, and in the case of Herod the Great, a total city makeover. The old city of Jerusalem will help your audience visualize the Jerusalem people in the Bible knew. Even so, you need to know that the walls around the old city today are only 500 years old. Remember, Jesus lived 2,000 years ago and David lived 3,000 years ago. So the old city walls are actually rather new. Throughout all of that history, the Kidron Valley has been unchanged. It's one of the few places that still looks the way it did in the biblical era. When David took Jerusalem and made it the capital of his united kingdom, 3 valleys surrounded the small city. The Hinnom Valley was to the south, and it still remains as the southern border for today's old city. The Kidron has bordered the eastern side of the old city and the Temple Mount for the past 3,000 years. But during the era of the Old Testament, there was also a central valley, a third valley. It's called the Triopian Valley, and it's between the Hinnom and the Kidron valleys. Herod the Great filled in this valley with debris and dirt as part of his makeover of the city. For once the central valley was eliminated, Herod was able to double the size of the Temple Mount and greatly enlarge Jerusalem. Herod's great building project happened just a few decades before Jesus was born. In fact, the temple Herod built was technically still under construction while Jesus was preaching. So, when Jesus predicted that not one stone would be left standing on another when he was talking about the temple, people couldn't believe it. How could such a magnificent building be torn down when it wasn't even officially finished? But in 70 AD, roughly 40 years after Jesus made his prophetic statement, the Romans set siege to Jerusalem, destroyed the city, destroyed the temple, destroyed much of the Temple Mount retaining wall, and then set fire to the entire city. Some of the debris from that destruction is still visible today. In the meantime, the Kidron Valley was unchanged. When it rains in the winter, valleys like the Kidron can be filled with dangerous flash floods. And that's why no one has ever built in the valley, which means we can see the same ravine today that Jesus and David saw. There are several Bible stories that involve the Kidron Valley. When Absalom led a coup in Jerusalem, David, his family, and his supporters crossed the Kidron, climbed the Mount of Olives, and fled to the east. They found safety only when they had crossed the Jordan River. When the kings of Judah led revivals, the Kidron was often a place where pagan idols were thrown. They were destroyed there and burned there. This was true for King Asa, King Hezekiah, and King Josiah. So why did they throw idols, pagan idols, down into the Kidron? Well, for one thing, gravity would have been their partner. The steep hills outside the Temple Mount retaining wall leading down into the Kidron would have made trash removal quick and easy. It probably would have helped destroy those idols as they tumbled down into the ravine. And there's a second thing. There are a lot of graves, a lot of tombs on the slopes of the Mount of Olives, including some very old tombs along the edge of the Kidron at the base of the Mount of Olives. Destroying the idols in a place where the dead were laid to rest was both symbolic and effective. For you see, by touching the bones of the dead, all of the items for worship were made unclean. Ezekiel probably had the Kidron and its many graves in mind when he spoke of a valley of dry bones coming back to life. We have another video related specifically to that passage that you might want to see. We'll put a link to it below this video. Finally, Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, which is on the lower slopes of the Mount of Olives, right on the edge of the Kidron Valley. John even mentions the Kidron specifically as he recorded all that happened on that fateful night. John 18 opens with this. When he had finished praying, Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Kidron Valley. On the other side was a garden, and he and his disciples went into it. That's the Garden of Gethsemane. This is where Judas came as he betrayed Jesus. Just as David's trusted advisor Ahithophel had once betrayed him. Did you know that David made the discovery about Ahithophel, his friend, on the same mountain where Jesus was betrayed by one of his friends, his disciple? This particular place and story connection is unquestioned, for Jesus had role-played David's heartache by giving bread to Judas at the last meal they shared together. It's a direct connection to Psalm 41, verse 9. And do you know the end of Ahithophel's story? David's betrayer regretted his decision and ended his life in suicide by hanging. That's the only non-military suicide in the entire Old Testament. And when Jesus was betrayed by Judas, Judas regretted his own decision and he took a cue from David's betrayer and hanged himself. By tradition, he did that at the intersection of the Kidron and Hinnom valleys. Oh, be sure to check out all of our videos from the Kidron, the Hinnom valleys, and the Old City of Jerusalem. When you find a video that can help you in your ministry, download it, drop it into your presentation software, and then show it to your audience as you teach some of the Bible's great messages from history. Thank you so much for subscribing to BibleStock. I hope it will help you bring the Bible to life for your audience.